Title: My husband took a second job without telling me, then I found out who it was really for. I thought he was working late to help us pay bills. But the truth shattered everything I believed about our love. I was folding laundry when his second phone buzzed again. Yes, that second phone, that one, he didn't know. I had found it was buried under his gym clothes one evening. Switched off no notifications, but curiosity took over me like a wave. I charged it. And what I found changed everything. Let me go back. My name is Lila. 31 years old. Married to Ethan for 6 years. We lived in a modest home in Indiana. No kids yet, but we were trying, or at least I thought we were. Ethan had always been caring. Protective. A little distant at times, but never cruel. He worked as a software technician. A 9-to-5 job. Stable. Decent pay. Then out of nowhere, he told me, we need to tighten our budget. No explanation. No emergency. Just suddenly we were cutting corners. Less eating out. No vacations this year. I agreed. I trusted him. He said he wanted to start saving for our future, and maybe IVF. So I let it go. But then the late night started. He'd come home after 10, sometimes past midnight. Always exhausted. He said work had gotten intense, that his company had him training interns after hours. I believed him. Until one day I brought dinner to his office. I thought it would be sweet, a surprise, but when I got there, the receptionist told me Ethan had left hours ago. And no, he never stayed late, not once. That was when the seed of doubt was planted, and it grew. Fast. 3 nights later, he came home past 1 a.m. I pretended to be asleep. He reeked of cologne. Not his usual one, a stronger, musky scent, and there was a faint lipstick stain on his inner shirt collar, bright red. I don't wear lipstick, never have, and definitely not red. My chest hurt. But I said nothing, not yet. A week later, while putting away laundry, I found a gym bag stuffed in the corner of our closet, not his regular one. A smaller duffel. That's where I found the phone. No lock. Just an open door to hell. There were messages, hundreds of them. All to the same contact, labeled M. I felt sick. They weren't just texts, there were photos. Voice notes, even little videos, kisses sent through the screen. Missed you today, baby. You looked so hot in that dress last night. I love how you sneak out just for me. Sneak out? I dropped the phone. My hands were trembling. I picked it back up and opened the call logs. They spoke every night after I went to sleep. Every single night. The next day, I followed him. He said he was heading to work, but he took a completely different route. He didn't go to his office. He drove 20 minutes out of town. To a fancy gated neighborhood. Parked down the street, watched as he pulled into a driveway. A woman came out. She hugged him. He kissed her on the forehead. Then on the lips. She laughed, took his hand, and they walked inside, like they'd done it 100 times, like it was their home. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't scream, couldn't cry, just frozen, watching my husband live a second life. I went home, sat on our bed, stared at our wedding photo. I had so many questions. Who was she? How long? Was she a fling, a mistake, or something worse? I waited for him to come back that night. He came home at 11:40 p.m., smelled freshly showered. He looked tired. But also satisfied. Like he had nothing to hide. Confronted him. I went to your office yesterday, I said. He froze. I saw it. That twitch in his jaw. His hands clenched. Oh? He said. Why? To surprise you. He blinked. And you weren't there. He shrugged. Left early. Had a meeting across town. I smiled. Did Ming go with you? His face went white. He didn't even try to lie. Just sat down, rubbed his hands over his face, and said, I was going to tell you. I swear. Tell me what? That you've been living 2 lives. He confessed, but not the whole truth. Not yet. He said her name was Melissa. She was an old friend. They reconnected 2 years ago. That's when it began. 2 years. While I planned our future, he was building one with someone else. The worst part, he had taken a second job delivering for a catering company. Not for us. Not for bills. Not for IVF. For her. To afford the apartment she stayed in. To buy her jewelry, perfume, shoes. He worked all those late nights to fund their affair. To keep her happy. To give her the life I thought we were building. I threw the phone at him. Screamed. Cried. Collapsed. He tried to hold me. I shoved him away. He cried too. Begged. Said he didn't mean to fall in love with her. I stared at him. You're in love with her? He was silent. That silence answered everything. I left the next morning, took my things, went to my sister's place. I filed for separation 2 days later, but something kept bothering me. There was more. I could feel it. He was hiding something else. Something deeper. Something worse. So I met up with Melissa. I Tracked her down, she was reluctant to meet, but I convinced her. We met at a quiet cafe. She was younger than me, prettier, too, but there was a look in her eyes worn down, tired, like she was sick of hiding too. I asked her one thing. How long has he been lying to us both? She looked at me, eyes glassy, then whispered, "You don't know. Do you?" That's when she told me the truth, and it was worse than anything I imagined. She looked me in the eyes and said it again. "You don't know. Do you?" I felt my stomach twist. I leaned forward. "What don't I know?" Melissa hesitated, her lips trembled. She looked around the cafe nervously, and then she dropped the bomb. "He told me you were dead." My breath stopped. "What?" She nodded, double quotes. "He said you passed away 2 years ago. He told me he was a widower. I didn't even know you existed until 3 weeks ago." I felt like my soul left my body, that my skin went cold, that my hands were shaking under the table. He had told her I was dead? Dead? She wasn't the other woman. She thought I was. She thought she was the only one. I couldn't speak. Melissa looked truly heartbroken. "I swear to you, I didn't know. I never would have been with him if I knew he was married." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm so sorry. I didn't even know what to feel anymore. Rage, betrayal, confusion, shock. It was all tangled together, like my entire life had just been a cruel joke." I asked her one question. "How long have you two been together?" She hesitated. 3 years. 3 years. That meant he started the affair even before he said we should tighten the budget. Even before the IVF conversations, even before I suspected anything. 3 whole years of lies, of pretending to love me. While he was building a separate life with another woman. Melissa sipped her coffee with trembling hands. "He used to stay over more often, but a year ago, he said he was busy with work. Said he had to pull night shifts." I nodded. I got the same excuse. We both laughed, a bitter, broken laugh. For a second, it felt like we were just 2 women, 2 strangers, destroyed by the same man. I told her everything. From the moment I found the second phone, to the lipstick on his collar, to him finally admitting he loved her. She covered her mouth with her hand, then said softly, "He told me he wanted to marry me." That hit like a slap. "He bought me a ring," she whispered. "He said when his grief faded, he'd be ready." I was speechless. He had planned to propose to her while sleeping in bed next to me every night. I thought it couldn't get worse, but it did. Melissa pulled out her phone. "I'm sorry," she said, "but you should see this." She scrolled for a moment, then showed me a photo. It was a little girl, big blue eyes, curls like Ethan's. "Her name's Ava," she said. "She's 2.5. My vision blurred. I blinked, stared at the screen, back at her. Then back at the screen. "No, no, no. You have a daughter?" I whispered. She nodded. "With Ethan." That broke me, shattered me. I wasn't just a wife. I was the side character in a hidden family story. Ava was born right in the middle of our marriage, while I was tracking ovulation cycles. He was holding his newborn baby in another home. I stood up. I needed air. I needed time. I needed to scream, cry, fall apart, anything. Melissa followed me out of a cafe. "I know it's a lie," she said, "but I thought you deserved to know the truth." I nodded. Then I asked her one last thing. "Does she know who I am now?" She shook her head. "She thinks you're gone. Ethan never mentioned your name." That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, playing the last 6 years of my life in my mind, like a film reel. All the memories, the smiles, the vacations, the quiet dinners, the late night talks, none of it felt real anymore. I wondered if he ever really loved me. Or if I was just filler. The safe wife, while he played perfect dad with Melissa and Ava on the side. I decided I needed answers. From him. Face to face. So I called him, told him to meet me. He sounded nervous, but he agreed. We met at a quiet park where no one would overhear. He arrived looking tired. Eyes baggy. He tried to smile. I didn't. I looked him straight in the eyes. "You told her I was dead." His face dropped. He tried to speak, but no words came out. "You had a baby with her." He looked down. "I didn't mean for it to happen." He whispered. I exploded. "You had a child while I was begging you to start a family." He covered his face. I was scared. Scared of what? That you'd leave me. I scoffed. "You cheated, lied, hid a whole life. And I'm the one who would leave." He didn't respond. He just sat there. Broken. But I wasn't here to comfort him. I was here for the truth. "Why didn't you just leave me?" He swallowed hard. "Because I loved you too." Those words hit wrong. They felt dirty. Wrong. "You don't do this to people you love," I said. "You used me. You lied to 2 women for years. You let me believe we were building a family while you already had one." His voice cracked. "I didn't know how to choose." So you chose to hurt us both? He nodded. Silent. Defeated. I stood up. This isn't about choosing anymore. You lost both. I walked away. In the following weeks, things moved fast. Melissa kicked him out. She blocked him, told him he could see Ava through a lawyer. I filed for divorce. No more waiting. No more pity. Just paperwork and freedom. But healing? That didn't come fast. I cried every night. Every song reminded me of him. Every corner of our house whispered memories. I ended up moving out into a small apartment. Fresh walls, fresh air. No ghosts. Then one day, I got a letter from Ethan. Handwritten. 3 pages. He apologized. Said he was in therapy. Said he knew he was broken. Said he didn't deserve either of us. And he was right. He didn't. But at the end of the letter, he wrote something that stayed with me. Something I never expected. I named our daughter Ava, because that was the name you once said you loved. I remembered. I just never told you. I don't know if it made things better or worse, but I cried, and maybe, just maybe, that was the start of healing. A year later I ran into Melissa at a bookstore. She had Ava with her. The little girl looked just like Ethan. She ran up to a shelf and grabbed a picture book. Melissa looked at me. We smiled. Nodded. Anger. Any more? Just mutual survival. That sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who break us the hardest. But sometimes, that breaking is what sets us free. It had been 6 months since the divorce was finalized. 6 months of therapy. 6 months of silence from Ethan. 6 months of learning how to live without lies. And yet, some nights I still woke up gasping for air, like my body remembered the betrayal. Even when my mind tried to forget, I had moved on in small ways. A new job at a marketing firm. New apartment with no shared memories. New routines, new passwords, new rules for my heart. But healing wasn't linear, and grief didn't follow a calendar. One Sunday afternoon, I was out walking, trying to enjoy the sun, trying to remind myself what peace felt like. I stopped by a small park, sat on a bench with coffee, watched kids run around and scream with joy. And then I saw her. Melissa. And Ava. They were across the park, under a tree. Melissa was reading a book. Ava was playing with a stuffed elephant. They looked happy. I wasn't sure if I should say hi, but then Ava saw me. She stared for a long second, then smiled and waved. I waved back. Melissa looked up, her expression softened. She nodded at me, a silent invitation. So I walked over. Melissa closed her book. Ava looked at me with curiosity. I knelt down. Hi there, I said gently. She hugged her stuffed elephant tight. Hi, she said. Her voice was tiny, but sweet. She had Ethan's eyes, but none of his damage. Sat next to Melissa. Neither of us said anything at first. Just watched Ava draw circles in the dirt with a stick. Then Melissa sighed. She asks about him sometimes. I looked at her. What do you tell her? That he's away? I nodded slowly. She know one day. Melissa swallowed. I'm not ready for that. I'm not sure she will be either. I understood that feeling too well. Sometimes I didn't know how I had survived it. We sat in silence again. Then she turned to me. I started seeing somewhere. I blinked. Oh? Yeah, his name's Carter. Nice guy, really gentle. Good with Ava. I smiled. I'm happy for you. And I met it. Truly. She'd been a victim, too, and she deserved light, just like me. We talked for over an hour, not just about Ethan. But about books. Music. Work. And dreams we'd put on hold. It was strange how pain had brought us together, but now it was something else holding the bond. Respect. Empathy. Truth. That night, I got a call, a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated, but answered. It was Ethan's mother, Lila. She said softly. My heart skipped. Hi, Mrs. Drant. I didn't know who else to call. I sat down. What's wrong? It's Ethan. I froze. He's in the hospital. What happened? Car accident. Is he okay? She paused. He's alive, but it's bad. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't seen Ethan since the divorce. Hadn't heard from him in months. Didn't even know where he lived now. But hearing he was hurt, it still cracked something open in me. Because despite everything, I had loved him once. Deeply. I told her I'd come. I didn't know why, but I went. Maybe for closure. Maybe for answers, or maybe because somewhere in me there was still a thread that hadn't snapped yet. The hospital smelled like bleach and sorrow. I walked down the sterile hallway, found room 408. He was inside, hooked to machines, bandaged head, 4 in his arm. His eyes fluttered open when I entered. He looked shocked. And then ashamed. Lila, he whispered. His voice was dry and weak. I pulled a chair, sat beside him. I heard. I said. He nodded. Stupid crash. Fell asleep at the wheel. I guess karma finally caught me. I didn't reply, just looked at the man who once held my whole heart, now broken. He turned his face slightly toward me. I didn't think you'd come. Neither did I. We sat in silence, until he said the words I didn't expect. Thank you. For what? For not letting me ruin you. I tried, he whispered, but you didn't let me. I blinked. You almost did. He nodded, but you rebuilt. You're stronger than me. I stayed for 10 minutes. Then stood up. Grabbed my hand weakly. His touch felt familiar, but distant, like it belonged in a memory. Can I ask you one thing? I paused. What? He swallowed hard. Do you think I ever had a chance to make it right? I looked at him. Long and hard, then said softly, no, some things don't get second chances. I walked away, outside. The air hit me like a wave. I breathed deep. I didn't cry, didn't break. Just stood tall. It was over. Finally. 2 weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail from a lawyer. Inside was a letter from Ethan. His will. And a check, $50,000. I stared at it in disbelief. There was a note attached. I know money can't fix the damage, but maybe it can help rebuild something better. I'm sorry. I didn't cash it. Not yet. I kept it in a drawer. Next to my old wedding ring. Reminder that even broken men sometimes tried to make peace. Time moved on. And so did I. Eventually, I met someone. Lucas. A photographer. Gentle soul, curious eyes. He never asked for details about my past. He just listened when I shared. And when he held me, he never made me feel like a secret or a shadow or a placeholder. Melissa and I stayed in touch. We had coffee often. Sometimes with Ava. Sometimes alone. Our lives were different, but connected, like survivors of the same storm, and somehow that made us sisters. One spring afternoon, Lucas proposed on a rooftop. With candles. Music. In tears. I said yes. There were no lies. No second phones. No lipstick on collars. Just love. Raw and real. Ethan never called again. That was okay. Some people are meant to be lessons, not lifetimes. A few months before my wedding, I took the check from the drawer, used it for something meaningful. I started a scholarship fund for single mothers, named it the Ava Grace Fund. Because love, even when born in betrayal, deserves a chance to grow into something beautiful. On the day of my wedding, Melissa and Ava were in the front row. Smiling. Cheering. Wiping tears. Like the end of a long nightmare and the beginning of a peaceful dawn. Life doesn't always go how you plan. Sometimes the person you trust most will be the one who slices your heart in half. But survival is possible. Healing is real. And love real. Patient, steady love still exists. The wedding was over, the lights dimmed, the flowers dried, and I was finally free. A new chapter had begun. Lucas and I returned from our honeymoon, lowing. 2 weeks in Greece. Sunsets over white rooftops. Wine. Laughter. No secrets. No lies. For the first time in years, I felt truly safe. But healing doesn't stop just because life feels better. Some wounds still itched beneath the skin, especially when the past came knocking. And one evening, it did. It was a letter, plain envelope. No return name. I opened it carefully. It was from Ethan. Again. Written in his handwriting, shaky but familiar. He wasn't reaching out to disrupt, just to say goodbye. He had been diagnosed. Late stage cancer. Terminal. He wasn't fighting it, didn't want to. He called it karma with a final punch. He wrote about the nights he spent thinking about everything he destroyed. Said Ava was the only good thing he'd ever done, and even that, he said, came with the cost of breaking 2 hearts. He didn't ask me to visit, didn't beg for forgiveness. Just said this: I want you to know you were the best thing in my life. I ruined it. I'm not asking for anything, but if you ever pass by where I'm buried, just give me a nod. That'll be enough. I sat with the letter for a long time. Lucas saw it in my hands. He didn't ask questions. He just walked over, kissed my head. And sat beside me, holding my hand. Weeks passed. I didn't reply. I didn't plan to visit, but his words stayed in my mind. Heavy. Sticky. Real. Then, one rainy afternoon, Melissa called me. Her voice shook. Ethan passed. There was silence on the line. I felt the air leave my lungs, even after everything. Hearing he was gone felt surreal. He left something for you, she added. What do you mean? I'll bring it to you. That weekend, Melissa came over, with Ava. She handed me a box. Wooden. Simple. Locked with a tiny clasp. I opened it slowly. Inside were photos. Letters. Old ones. Some from our early marriage. One from our first trip to Colorado. He had written it but never given it to me. Another was a list. Titled Things I Should Have Told Lila. Number 1, you were right about the late night calls. Number 2, you looked beautiful that night in the blue dress. I still see it in my dreams. Number 3. I thought about telling you the truth 100 times. But I was a coward every single time. Number 4. You deserved a better man. I read every word, every confession, every regret. It didn't erase what he did. But it reminded me that he was human. Flawed. Foolish. Weak. But human. At the bottom of the box was a folded letter addressed to Ava. I looked at Melissa. She nodded. Would you like to read it to her? I asked. She paused. Then said, yes, but when she's older. We sat quietly. Ava played with blocks on the rug. Melissa stared at the box. I don't know how to explain it to her, she whispered. Tell her the truth, I said gently. But also tell her. He loved her. And I believe he did that in his broken way. As much as he could. 2 months later. Melissa called again. I think I'm ready. For what? To tell Ava about you. I blinked. Me? She smiled through the phone. I want her to know everything. I want her to know the woman who rose from the ashes. We met at the park. The same bench. That same old tree. Ava was 5 now. Bright. Sharp. Full of questions. Are you mommy's friend? She asked me. Yes, I said. I'm Lila. She looked at me. Tilted her head. Then smiled. Do you like elephants? I laughed. Yes, I love them. She handed me hers. A tiny plush with one eye missing. His name is Button, she said. Held it. I love Button already. That day, Melissa told Ava everything. In simple words. Soft ones. I stayed quiet. Watched. Listened. Dava didn't cry. She didn't look sad. She just hugged her mother. Then walked over to me. Thank you, she said. I blinked. For what? She smiled. For still being nice. That night. I cried. Tears that weren't sad. Tears that were full of weight. Tears of finally letting go. Years passed. Ava grew. Melissa married Carter. They moved closer to the coast. I visited often. Sometimes with Lucas. Sometimes alone. Sometimes just to sit on that park bench, where it all shifted. Where pain became peace. I never had children of my own. Lucas and I tried, but when it didn't happen, we let go with love. We traveled, we hosted, we became godparents to Ava. And yes, she called Aunt Leela, and every year on her birthday, she gave me a card, and every year it made me cry. Once, when she was 10, she asked me, do you think people like my dad can change? I paused. Then said, I think people can always try. But sometimes trying comes too late. She nodded. Quietly. Then hugged me. I'm glad you forgave him. I smiled. I'm glad you helped me. Now. I'm older. Wiser. Still scarred, but no longer broken. I look back and realize that betrayal taught me strength. Loss taught me value. And forgiveness. Forgiveness taught me freedom. Ethan may have taken a part of my past, but he didn't take my future. And sometimes, the best revenge is healing loudly. Living fully and loving deeply. Because even when life breaks you open, you can choose what grows from the cracks, and I chose peace. It had been nearly 8 years since I first found that second phone. 8 years since the night I sat on our bed, crying over a love I thought was real. Ava was now 12. Melissa was happily married. And I had built a life I once thought was impossible. Lucas and I had moved to a quiet house near the lake. Mornings were calm. Evenings were filled with stories and laughter, but sometimes life likes to remind you that the past is never truly gone. It was a rainy Thursday. I had just made tea. Lucas was out on a work trip. I heard a knock on the door. Soft, repeated. I opened it slowly and froze. There stood a woman, late 30s, holding a child's hand. She looked nervous, worn, shaking slightly. Are you Lila? She asked. Yes, I said cautiously. I'm sorry to just show up like this. She motioned to the child beside her. He was maybe 6. Big eyes, dark curls. My name's Danielle, she said. And this is Liam. I blinked, still unsure. Still processing. She took a breath. I knew Ethan too. My chest tightened. I don't understand, I said. She hesitated. Then pulled something from her bag, a letter, with my name on it in Ethan's handwriting. I was told, if anything ever happened to him and I needed help, I should come to you. I opened the letter, my hands shaking. It was dated 2 years before his death. Lila, if you're reading this, it means someone I cared about may need you. Her name is Danielle. She doesn't know everything about me. But I made mistakes. I lied. Again. Liam is my son too. My knees buckled. I sat down slowly on the hallway bench. Another child. Another secret. He had another child. While Melissa was pregnant with Ava. While I was still married to him. Danielle's voice was soft. I didn't know about you. Not until after he passed. I looked at her. She seemed scared. Alone. How long were you two together? I asked. Only a year, she said. He said he was a single dad. I nodded. Of course he did. She sighed. I found out the truth a year ago. I was going through some of his things. She looked down. I saw a photo of you and Melissa. Then I found this letter with your name. I was silent. My mind raced. 3 women, 3 children. 1 man, and he had told each of us different stories. I looked at Liam. He clung to his mother's arm, confused, curious. Does he know? I asked. Danielle shook her head. Only that his dad died. When he was little. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to feel. The man I once loved had left a trail of pain behind. And somehow, I was still cleaning it up. Danielle stood up. I'm sorry for coming here. I just didn't know where else to go. Wait, I said. Don't go. She looked surprised. Do you want tea? I asked. We sat in my kitchen. Rain tapping the windows. She told me her story. How they met. How sweet he was. How he helped her with groceries. Walked her home every day. That she was newly divorced, lonely, and Ethan. He was charming. I knew that part too well. I thought he was my second chance, she said. I nodded. I thought he was my forever. Liam sat quietly, sipping cocoa. He smiled at me. Your house smells like cookies, he said. I laughed. Well, that's a good thing. That night, after they left, I called Melissa. She listened in stunned silence. Another woman, another child. She sighed. Are you okay? I think so, I said. I don't feel shocked anymore, just tired. Melissa understood. We both knew that pain. A week later, Danielle called. She had found a small place nearby. Started working part-time, but money was tight. I thought about the check Ethan left me. The one I never cashed. I still had it. Still untouched. I called my bank, opened a trust. For Liam, for school. For clothes. He deserved a better start. A clean one. Not poisoned by the choices of his father. Danielle cried when I told her. She tried to refuse. But I insisted. This isn't from Ethan, I said. This is from someone who knows how it feels to be lied to. And slowly, we became friends, not close. Not like Melissa and me. But soft. Understanding. Supportive. Lucas was patient. He never asked me to explain everything. He just held me. And said, you have a way of turning pain into something beautiful. Years passed again. Eva graduated middle school. Liam started drawing pictures of dinosaurs and spaceships, and I wrote. I started a blog, about healing, about betrayal, about rebuilding. It gained attention. Thousands of readers. Comments from women all over the world, telling me their stories. Their heartbreaks. Their strength. One comment caught my eye. You gave me the courage to leave. Thank you. That was the moment I knew. All the pain, all the tears, all the sleepless nights, they weren't wasted. They had become someone else's reason to rise. One day, I received a package. From an anonymous sender. Inside was a necklace, simple, elegant, and a note to the woman who survived what many couldn't. Thank you for showing the rest of us that we can too. That's when I realized, Ethan was no longer my shadow. No longer a wound, just a chapter. A hard one. But not the last one. It was a Sunday morning. Soft sunlight poured through the windows. Lucas was making pancakes in the kitchen. I sat by the window with a book in my lap, but I wasn't reading. I was thinking about how far I'd come and how far I had left to go. It had been 10 years since the first betrayal, since the second job, since the second phone. 10 years since I discovered my husband had a secret life. A secret woman, and a secret child. And then later, a second secret child, and another woman, who didn't know I even existed. There were days when the pain still echoed in my bones, but those days were rare now. Mostly, I felt peace, not because I forgot, but because I learned to live beyond it. I had published a book, a memoir, titled The Second Phone, A Wife Story. It wasn't just about Ethan. It was about all of it. The love, the betrayal, the grief, and most importantly, the rising. The book spread fast. People resonated. Thousands of women reached out, from all over the world. Started giving talks. Interviews. I spoke at women's shelters. Universities. Even small coffee shops where people just wanted to feel understood. But one event changed everything. A retreat, hosted in a cabin up north. 15 women, all survivors of a betrayal. Some had been cheated on, others emotionally abandoned. Some had their husbands leave overnight or vanish without explanation. But we all shared one thing. We had been made to feel invisible. Broken. Replaceable. On the second night of the retreat, we sat in a circle, telling our stories. And when it was my turn, I didn't talk about Ethan. I talked about Leela, the version of me who cried in a closet, who clutched a wedding photo like it still meant something, who wondered if she wasn't enough. And then, the version of me who stood up, walked away, started over. Loved again, and made peace. When I finished, the women were crying. One of them reached for my hand and said, "You gave me a voice I didn't know I had." That night, I cried too, but it wasn't sadness. It was release. The past no longer haunted me. It shaped me, but it didn't own me. Later that year, I was invited to speak at a major event in New York City. It was huge. Thousands of seats, cameras, lights. I stood on that stage, a woman who once slept beside a liar, now standing in truth. I told the audience, I once thought I would die from heartbreak. But heartbreak was how I learned to breathe again. A standing ovation followed. And in the front row was Melissa, holding Ava's hand. They had flown in to surprise me. I rushed down after the talk. We hugged tightly. Ava had grown so much. Now 15, beautiful, bright, kind. She said, "I'm proud to be part of your story." I smiled. "No, you're part of the healing." After that event, things moved even faster. The book became a bestseller. A documentary was made. Women from all walks of life came forward. It wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about recovery. Resilience. Rebirth. Danielle moved in next to Melissa. Their kids grew up like siblings. Liam adored Ava. He called her Super Ava. She called him Little Storm. They were chaos together. But the good kind. Lucas and I built a writing retreat house near the lake. Women came from across the country. To write their stories. To cry. To laugh. To let go. We called it the Fireplace House, because everyone who entered came with ashes, but left with flames. On the 5th anniversary of Ethan's passing, I visited his grave. Alone. Not with anger. With bitterness. Just clarity. I placed a single white lily. And whispered, "Thank you. Not for the betrayal, but for the lessons, for the strength, for the second life I would have never known existed without the fall." Ava later asked me why I went. I said, "Because peace isn't forgetting. It's forgiving yourself for holding on too long." She nodded. "I want to visit him one day too. Say goodbye my own way." I told her that was okay. That closure is personal and messy. And always worth it. Years passed. The retreat house expanded. Melissa became a co-founder. Danielle started therapy work with children. Liam painted his first mural on one of the fireplace walls. A tree with broken branches, but golden light shining through the cracks. He titled it, "The Strongest Tree." And me? I kept writing. Kept healing, kept living. One night, Lucas and I sat by the lake. Stars above, fireflies dancing. He looked over at me. "You ever think about what would have happened if you never found that phone?" I laughed softly. "All the time." He waited. "And I think I would have kept trying to fix something that was never whole." He nodded. "I'm glad you found it." I smiled. "Me too. Because sometimes the thing that shatters you is the very thing that saves you." Looked out at the water. Calm. Still. Reflecting the sky. And thought to myself, this is what healing looks like. Not perfect. Not easy. But honest. And free. And that's the thing about second jobs, second phones, second families. They may break your first life, but they don't have to break your future. Because I am Leela, and this is my real life, the one I chose, the one I fought for, the one I rebuilt from the ruins. And in this life, I am not a victim. I am not a secret. I am not a shadow. I am the fire that rose. I am the love that stayed. I am the woman who survived.